Okay, for our first section of training, we're going to talk about drip coffee preparation. So, the very first thing to keep in mind is that you want to use coffee that is no older than 14 days from the roast date. On the bags that we sell to you, we indicate the name of the coffee. This is actually a bag for espresso, but it will say, if it's your medium roast, it will say Loyola Medium, and it will have the roast date on it. If it's older than 14 days, that's not to be used. So, and you want to make sure that you're using the oldest coffee first. So it's important to rotate the coffee so that the oldest is forward and up, and the youngest is pushed toward the back. On your delivery, it will be rotated as well. So, the proper order of things for drip coffee preparation, first and foremost, is to take your dispenser, and you want to make sure that it's rinsed and preheated for the batch. So you use a pitcher, something like this, and fill it about halfway with hot water from the brewer. Something like that. Pour it through the top. Let it sit for just a few seconds. Kind of swish it around to preheat all that metal, and then drain it through. Make sure it's completely drained before you brew your batch, or your batch will wind up either watery or it'll overflow. So now our dispenser is cleaned and preheated. We'll put the funnel back. Now we're going to grind our batch. So you take a filter from your stash, if you can grab one, and put it below your grinder. Only use the top two buttons on your grinder. Now, this grinder is able to recognize the type of hopper that's on top. So you see this says regular. That stands for Loyola Medium, and the other one says decaf. The top buttons grind enough coffee for a gallon batch, which is what your brewer is programmed to do. So you push that down so it's highlighted, and then push the grind button. Now I recommend grinding 4 or 5 batches at a time. It's okay for the coffee to sit for a few hours in grind form before you brew it. In fact, it's in some ways better for the preparation of the coffee. But it's also important to make sure that you've ground enough coffee. The grinder is very good at being fairly accurate, but we've also provided a scale so that you can make sure that you have exactly the right amount of ground coffee per batch of coffee. Okay. So, to make sure that the scale is set up, you take an empty filter, put it in the basket, and turn it on. And the scale will zero itself out. You're looking for 7.5 ounces of ground coffee per batch. If it's a little bit under, add a little bit of ground coffee. I have a little bit left over here. If it's a little bit over, take some out, because it's very important that the ratio be correct, kind of like salt in your soup. Once you've ground your coffee and it's proper, then you take your brew basket, put the coffee inside, make sure that the filter is even on all sides, and then shake it slightly so that the coffee is level. Put it back into the brewer, take your preheated dispenser, and brew. It will take approximately 5 minutes to brew your batch. Now, once your batch is done, well, first and foremost, Don't take any cups of coffee before the batch is completely done brewing. It brews in layers, and not only will the cup that you sell to that customer not be good, but all the following cups won't be right either. Once the coffee's done brewing, there's a timer up on top, and it's set for an hour and a half. It has a memory button right here, and once you push that, it'll appear as an hour and a half. Once it's done brewing, push start. Brewed coffee is only good for 1.5 hours. At that point, it has to be dumped, and you have to brew a new batch.